Greetings, family and friends. Welcome to yet another exciting session on the Elite Class of Growth. My name's Eric Piri, and it's had a great joy that we are able to gather in one accord by the Spirit of God, wherever you are and wherever you're watching me from. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey, and even as God continues to elevate us, my prayer with you today is that He elevates you in His knowledge, His wisdom, and by His Spirit, He takes you to one level of glory to another, a dimension of exposure, that the knowledge that you will have will extend to greater capacity, that the mysteries of God become a reality in your life, and that you can measure your components of how to live in Him, that He can bring so much joy in the walk that you will have with Him as God. So be a part and get to have what the Lord is doing, especially through these platforms. There are other videos that we have recorded, and you can go back, listen to them, and build from them as well. Every day that we get to gather in such a way, we are learning different things, and God has been so amazing. So if you haven't yet liked, subscribed, and shared any of the videos, I encourage you to do so. Do so with family, do so with friends, and we'll be spreading this word globally, and we'll be spreading this word to people that really need to hear what God has in store and how we can experience His growth in each and every particular time that we get to be exposed to His word. So today is very interesting because I'm going to be talking about something so fundamental. Not only is it fundamental, but it's an experience that the moment you have exposure to it, you become a part of it, and your very identity in it will be created, and that would make you known of who you are in God. Now, what I mean by of who you are in God is that it pours out an illustration of mankind, because the moment that God began to create, it was one of the very first things that had appeared. And when we got to the New Testament, there was a man that was created by God, and he was made to bear witness of the very component that was created within God that could fill the surface of the earth, that we could testify that surely God is in existence. What am I talking about? I am talking about the light of God. So in this session, in a few more minutes, we're going to be talking and sharing the experience of the light of God. Now, the moment you begin to read the book of Genesis, one thing that you would realize is that one of the components and elements that God brought on the surface of the earth, even after He hovered over the surface of the sea, He brought out something that was very cardinal, that existed within Him, that would be a reality. That would be a reality on the surface of the earth. Not only it being a reality, but it would show mankind of who He is and how He exists. Now, the reason why He brings out something out of Himself to prove to men that He exists is that we should always have a relationship with Him, and we should always be in constant touch with Him. So He's hovering over the surface of the sea, and out of Him He calls out something called light. He calls out something that existed within Him, and He says, "Let there be light." And light appeared. Now, the light appeared that was out of Him was something that men, like I said, could testify to the glory of God and prove of His existence. Now, He brought out an experience that man could vividly experience Him each and every particular time. That every time we see the evidence of light appearing on the surface of the earth, we get to acknowledge that whatever we get to feel, even to the closest part of our being as man, we need to acknowledge the very existence of who God is and how He operates. So the atmosphere that comes in with the product of light is the very evidence that God is in existence, and we need to be tuned in to what He has released in every particular day by virtue of the existence of light, and for it to manifest on the surface of the earth. So the manifestation of the light in each and every particular day is an experience that God has created within Himself that man should have and should testify to who who God truly is in their life. That's why we have built up testimonies each and every particular day, and every way that a day is designed has specific elements on how to engage God. And the moment he's engaged to the way he has released himself in that particular day, then we'll see the totality and the fullness and the experience of how he needs to be experienced on that time and day that he manifests. When we get to the book of John chapter 1, when you begin to read the book of John chapter 1, verse 1 to 5, somewhere there, you begin to understand that God created John to bear witness of the light. He says he was not the light, but he came that he could bear witness of the light. He begins to introduce a space within the shadow that was there even before God had brought his son on the surface of the earth. He could fill in that shadow with the space of light, that the moment it was filled with that component and element of light, he could bear witness and tell to the rest of the world what to expect when he came as the fullness of light, who was Jesus Christ. Now, the expectations that John had created for every particular man was that not only was Christ coming as light, but in him was life, and the very life was the light of men. Now, the light of men, different and very cardinal from the light of God, was the exposure that we have with the life within us, with the moment that we get to accept Christ as our Lord and Savior. And by virtue of having that very life of Christ in us, we are able to expose the very light that exists within God, but now that functions within man, to bring out the full realities and the components of God on how he functions on the surface of the earth to each and every particular day. Now, different from the light of God, within us we have the light of men, extracted from who he is as God, placed into every man, that we can show to the world that we have something that is very existing, always in existence. And the testimony to it is that we are created in the very image and likeness of God. That image that is created within God, that has been placed into man, is to showcase how God looks like and how he can manifest. And that fullest manifestation of how he has exposed himself can be the testimony that surely he's in existence, he exists, and to his fullness he has given to every man the opportunity to encounter him fully. Praise the name of the living God. I feel like I have said so much in a few minutes. Now, there's something about the light of God different from how he exposes himself as the light of God into the light of men. There's something that's different from the light of men and the light of God. The light of men is the evidence of exposure that God is in existing, and that we can have intimacy with him in each and every particular day. In his fullness as God, he has separated himself in his very light, that every moment that we have with him, not only do we have an encounter, but we have an audience before him that speaks before us, because we have the very component of his light. The moment the light of God shines brighter within us, we are conformed to the very light that is given to us, that should be the light of men. The moment we come before him, who is God in existence as the light of God, what is in us as the light of men is a representation that gives us audience before him, who is the light of God. The moment he acknowledges the light that which is within us, then we can have an audience before him, and we can listen to what he has in store for us. If the very Spirit of God is existing within us, if the very Spirit that is functioning within every man can acknowledge what the sound of God feels like, or when they are able to hear the very sound that comes out of God, then he is also able to acknowledge the very light that is existing within every man that comes before him. And every time that we come before him, he gives an audience before him, and we can utter what we need to utter, because he's sovereign and he's acknowledged that very thing that is existing within us. Praise the name of the living God. It's not so complicated. The understanding of the light of God is that we are in constant fellowship with him each and every particular day. As you see the light, or as your eyes see the elements and the component of the light shining in each and every particular day, then you will know that that's the greater light that is existing in all parts of the world. Why? Because it came out of existence from the very word and the very being of God. He brought into existence from his very word and his own being within himself. He brought out something that we should truly testify and we should truly have communion with each and every particular day. The light of men that exists from the light of God is that the total functionality of how we carry out ourselves should be a true testimony of God. The power and the authority that exists in every particular man is because he has drawn out something from God that is a replica or a reflection of who he is. The moment you're able to see the authority and the power of God functioning in me, then you will know that I've drawn out the very light of God that is existing within me, that has been made the light of men, that I'm able to proclaim and profess the very authority that is in God, the very power that is in God, for men to have the evidence of who I carry and the evidence of God who is existing. That's why the moment that you come into contact with the enemy, the first acknowledgement that is there is the light of men, by virtue of you fusing out the light of God should being functional within you. He sees you today. He knows that you are the light of the world, a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hidden. He sees that you are the light of the world that has come to bear witness, that you bear witness in the very world because you have been called by him. I urge you to be the light of God. God bless you and have a fruitful day.